Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. Let me know if I need to speak up, anything like that. So my name is Amy Jones. I'm part of the Uncomfortable York organisation, which is in itself part of a larger organisation called Uncomfortable Cities. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the ways in which we, Uncomfortable York, as a social enterprise, attempt to challenge colonial narratives within built heritage environment, and how we managed to disrupt the traditional set of a walking tour with our uncomfortable tours. So a little bit of introduction of how we started. In 2018, there were a few doctoral students, PhD students, at the University of Oxford who were given a task of creating a heritage walking tour that would speak to analysing complicated legacies. And from this, Uncomfortable Oxford was born. So the question that we always get asked on our tours is probably one that you're also asking yourself, and that's why did we name it uncomfortable? So we use this word because our content is focused on what is often considered the uncomfortable aspects of history. So these are the things that are normally overlooked by scholars and the general public. Among them are legacies of inequality and imperialism, as well as classism, racism, sexism, and ableism. These are the sort of stories that are overlooked, and these are the ones that we tend to focus on, rather than the stereotypical stories of the wealthy and the powerful. But we're also self-reflexive, which means that we like to understand the limitations of the term uncomfortable. So, for example, uncomfortable for whom? Different people have different levels of what they want to hear about, things that they feel happy discussing, especially on a public walking tour. And this is something that we have to be really aware of as tour guides, and something that we're specially trained in as well. So therefore, uncomfortable is both the content and the method through which we deliver our tours, but always through prompting discussion. We aim to make this discomfort productive. So it's not just uncomfortable for the sake of uncomfortable. We're trying to be productive. So based on this model, Uncomfortable York was formed as a social enterprise in 2018 and has blossomed into over 8 different walking and museum tours around 3 different cities. So we have Uncomfortable Cambridge, which started in 2022, and Uncomfortable York, which started in 2023. I have been with the trust for about a year. I started as a blog writer, so we have an online blog for writing articles. That's how I started, and then progressed to being a tour guide, and now, as I'm here today, a workshop leader and just all-round kind of teacher. So, as an organisation, our goal is to incite public dialogue that questions established narratives of privilege, power, and inequality, and also advocates for justice and accountability. So, the question is, how do we manage this? So we have 4 main methods for making this possible. The first one is research. Our tours are thoroughly researched by a team of academic experts, all of whom have PhDs and master's degrees as well. Second of all, we use collaboration, which means we work with universities, small businesses, local community groups, and national organizations to ensure that our tours are relevant and sensitive. Third, they're walking tours, so they provide the physical activity of walking. So this can help provide on-the-ground experience in built heritage environments. So we have an immersive perspective. People are not just hearing history, they are in amongst the history. Finally, we also have online resources for those who are not physically able or choose not to come on one of our walking tours. So our website offers a number of research articles, learning materials, lesson plans, reading lists, things like that. So it's necessary to note that our business model is as important as our tour content. As a social enterprise, we are committed to paying our staff, like myself, many of whom are graduate students, investing in the local community, and involving partners in the research of our content. So we are never working alone, and the people that we work with, we give them credit and pay as well where they deserve it. So in York, for example, we collaborate with the Roundtree Society, which I'm sure you've all heard of, and we involve them in our research process when we talk about the history of chocolate here in York. We're also in discussions with the Bar Convent and Historical Towns Trust as well. So when we're designing our tours, we focus on the experience of the tour participants thinking about accessibility, but also how to incorporate feedback. So we do this through a number of different ways. First of all, we address the challenges of conducting walking tours in an old city like York and how this can be difficult for both accessibility, also crowd control, thinking about what it's like here at Christmas and in the summer. We also respond to participant feedback. So our tours are very interactive. We're not just looking for people to listen to our tours, but we also like to ask them questions, give them a little bit of a test as well. And we're also proactively seeking to diversify our reach and audiences. So we're always looking for new people who might not have a better understanding history as we do to look at some of our tours and learn some of our information. Okay, so the way that we do this and how we design our walking tours to make them a seminar-style discussion approach is that we provide open conversation for attendance. So we're not asking yes or no questions. We're usually asking what people think of something and whether they want to add to the information that someone like myself might have given them during the tour. We also make sure that they're educational. So we're using seminar-style teaching outside of the classroom. So giving people an opportunity to really think about what they're hearing rather than just taking it in and then walking away. We also want to break barriers. So by doing this, we bring together people who might not be interacting if they weren't in this tour group, for example. And we find that this can be a really good way to facilitate an open conversation and make the work constructive as well. Finally, critical analysis is really important for us. So making people think about history in really important ways. So using all of our university knowledge and trying to bring in some knowledge that people might not have thought about since primary or secondary school as well. So some of the questions we might ask is about Romans past, which I'll tell you a little bit about now. So our tours cover a different range of topics. So for example, we talk about ethnic diversity in Roman York, mixed families in the 19th century, and also the intersection of class, gender, and sexuality when we talk about Anne Lister. For example, we take the better-known story of Anne Lister and Holy Trinity Church here in York as an entry point, but through the tour, we shift the focus to be about Eliza Rain, who was a young mixed-race girl living in England in the 19th century, and we try to complicate that story of Anne Lister. So I'll give you a taste now of what Roman York might have been like and give you some of the questions so you can get a sense of what our tours are usually like. So this is usually the first stop that we deliver. This is one of my favourites. So we'll start by taking people to the Minster and we would ask them to have a look around at all of the things they recognise around them as being Roman. So we have the Constantine the Great statue and the Roman column as two things that they usually identify. After that, we talk about the importance of the emperors here in York and specifically the ethnic diversity of the emperors and their wives. So, for example, we have Julia Domna, we have Severus Septimius, who was her husband, and finally we have the ivory bangle woman who's depicted in those top two photos. They're a reconstruction based on her skull. She was a young woman who died at about the age of 20 in Roman York. And we know that she came from a North African tribe and she was a very wealthy young lady. She'd either been brought here perhaps with her father or her husband or maybe her brother. And it's really interesting to see how she has been buried and the respect that she's been buried with. You can still go and see this at the Yorkshire Museum, which is where I work, it's where I've come from today for this. And you can get a sense of what Roman York was like and the diversity that it held. So underneath our engaging in discussions tab on this slide, these are some of the questions I would usually ask our participants. So for example, how do they know York's Roman past has been acknowledged? How easily can we see these diverse stories? So stories specifically about North African presence. And what are the key themes that emerge from some of the monuments that they see before them? So really, we're getting people to stop, have a look, understand, take it in, and then reflect on these things. So I'm a recipient of professional development opportunities with Uncomfortable York. So it's not just about being a tour guide, it's also about what more they can provide for you. So as I said, I started as a blog writer, but it's also strengthened my skills in public speaking, obviously, because I'm here today with you, being able to speak to you. And also we have very specific training on conflict mediation. So being able to disarm some difficult conversations that we have, especially between members who have booked on our tour and then members of the public as well, who are usually the ones more likely to shout abuse at us or try and cause an argument, something like that. So we have to be always ready to try and disengage and disarm a conversation like that. And we're given special training for that, which I've taken into other jobs. I'm also now, of course, a researcher and a workshop leader as well. So it's really given me new ways of thinking about my career. And I've just finished my university degree as well. So it's given me a brand new light into what I want to do with my future. And many of in fact, all of our tour guides here in York, at least, are all either students or have just graduated students. So we've all got that fresh new knowledge and some passion for history, hopefully still left over by the time we're finished. So this is a really good opportunity for networking and early career development. So, as you might expect, it's not perfect in the amazing world of Uncomfortable York. There are some challenges, it's quite a lot of them. So, for example, York as a city, if you live in York, you probably know York quite well either way. It is quite difficult to move around when it gets busy here in the tourist seasons. That's something that we have to plan for. We always have plan A's and then plan B's and C's and D's. You always need an alternative. So that's something that, again, we are taught how to do. It's also difficult to think about relevant topics from other walking tours. So walking tours are a huge business here in York, and it's really difficult to establish yourself within that group, especially like we are, offering something completely different to people. And it's sometimes something that people aren't always keen on joining initially because they think that they want something that they're used to, learning about the Vikings, for example, or something else that is popular in York. So the challenges, there they are, but there are also many opportunities for Uncomfortable York. So we are a very walkable city, which means that it can be really easy to encounter historical remnants. So everywhere you look, there is something historical here in York. That makes our job a little bit easier. And also participant feedback from people who've been on our tours highlights that they are memorable and enriching due to the unique perspectives that we offer. So we're not just blurting information out at people, we're asking them to engage and think. And usually people appreciate that. So finally, looking ahead, what else have we got going on? So as we continue to grow, we're excited to develop new projects and further research collaborations. Our plans include expanding our free research article resources and offering paid opportunities to students to contribute. So that is, again, how I first got into the business. We're also working on creating an interactive map of York statues and memorials in partnership with the Institute for Public Understanding of the Past, that's IPUP, which is at the University of York, concerns public history. And finally, we're collaborating on a new research project highlighting the history of migration in York, spearheaded by a postdoctoral fellow at the university. And we've just hosted a workshop for this during the York Festival 2025 about a month ago. So we've got lots of exciting things going on. We've just hired 2 new tour guides so that there's about 5 of us now doing tours in York. We look to keep going, hopefully hire some more students eventually. But that's where we're heading. So it's just a very short introduction today. As I say, I've not got long and I don't want to bore you too much with all this information. But thank you for listening. I hope that you've learned anything. I've got about 5 minutes or so for questions, if anybody has any burning questions. If not, because I'm just obviously, I'm under a bit of a time constraint today. If you want to write your questions down, I'm happy to get an email and answer them and get you some written feedback if that could help as well, rather than just a verbal one now. But that brings me to the end. I hope to see you on a tour maybe or another workshop, something like this. I will definitely be back if I can. And yeah, thank you for listening to me. I hope you've enjoyed it. That's it.